Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
And it's a splendid morning. Thank you for joining us. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, and of course broadcasting on TV1, the best place to have your breakfast coffee. And we are of course part of Capital Maharaja Group. This morning it's wonderful to have with me my friend and colleague, Mr. Bandula Jayasekara. Good morning.
Good morning, Faraz.
Am I allowed to call you Bandula on this time? It doesn't have to be Mr. Jayasekara.
We don't believe in this Misters and Utuma and Tuma and all.
Yes, and this honorable.
Done away, yeah. Because most of these MPs are not honorable.
Yeah, I read up about that. Apparently honorable is a sort of an honorary way that all parliamentarians in Sri Lanka are entitled to be called that. They can be called that. But it's an honorary thing. But
they are not. Most of them are not honorable.
How could they possibly be? Shall we take the case of John Amaratunga, that chap, 77 years old, and you know, the higher you get, the less you have to shout, because people hear you anyway. And he seems to have forgotten this in his old age. Having had some trouble before, remember that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was very much in the newspapers. But the thing for us is, okay, people have condemned, but nobody has asked him to resign. Not the president, not the prime minister, not the cardinal. Right? He's Minister of Christian Affairs. Yes. I think people should write to the Pope.
Indeed.
And and complain. Because he's the minister in charge of Christian Affairs.
Well, we'll see if we can get you the email address of the Pope.
But they can tweet to the Pope. There is a Twitter handle of the Pope.
Ah, yes.
People can tweet to the Pope.
Ah, they can tweet.
So they should ask him to resign.
That's true. Nobody's asked him to do that. And the other thing, did you notice that this journalist at whom he directed his abuse and his profanity, I mean, really, he'd gone into the depths of the gutter, hadn't he, to behave like that. But this journalist wasn't part of our network.
Yeah, but then we stand by.
We stand by the whole family of the industries, don't we? And we've shown solidarity.
But this should stop, because you have, like, we had the deputy editor of the island, Shaminda, was saying how he was threatened by the prime minister.
That's right. That's sort of last April, wasn't it?
Also for us, I think the religious leaders, ambassadors, should stop meeting them. Have they condemned? He's in charge of tourism and Christian affairs. Nobody has condemned them. Only the media.
Any two positions that are so important. One is tourism, and obviously the other, especially in this ambience that we live in, where there is serious attempts to destabilize the communal harmony that this country has enjoyed for several decades. And there is this active sort of support. By not condemning, they're actually supporting. And we have that the priest who's gone missing. You know, this country, our intelligence people, they found all the terrorists and dealt with them, but they can't find this child.
No, that's what I saw. Like where President Sirisena asked the military intelligence to look into it.
Yeah,
but this is a shame.
I think we are actually working hard at getting an email address for the Vatican City to the Pope's
But they
office.
can surely tag the Pope and tweet. There is a Twitter handle of the Pope.
Good. We'll find that too, and it'll come up on your screens hopefully during the time of this program. Now then, the other thing, Bandula, you worked in the diplomatic service. Did you ever have any training on selling lottery tickets?
Now, most of these, our diplomats will be trained to sell lotteries.
They'll have to.
Yeah, they have to. I'm sure.
There was a wonderful cartoon in where was this?
The Daily Mirror yesterday.
The Daily Mirror
which
yesterday.
We showed on our news also.
Oh, you did? Yes, this is absolutely wonderful. Gihan, somebody is the
Chikera, yeah.
The Chikera, and it's lovely because it shows purportedly, I suppose, our foreign minister Ravi Karunanayake seated there and with a tray of lottery tickets in front of him.
At the United Nations, mind
you. At the UN, no less.
But now the foreign ministry might have to have a director general in charge of lotteries very soon.
Well, do you know, this must be the joke of the century, isn't it?
And also,
where how on earth, however wide-angled you may be, how on earth can you possibly give national lotteries and development lotteries to the foreign minister? I can't see a connection.
No, people are laughing at us. You think the other diplomats are not laughing at us? The diplomatic community is laughing. The world is laughing at us. And as well as we got 3 cabinet spokespersons, that's also a big joke.
Now, I want to tell you this, and I have checked yesterday. I called the secretary and I checked, okay. Now, apparently, after the Gazette notification and the appointment of the new secretaries and so on, some secretaries, ministry secretaries, these are rather senior people who actually run the ministries, have been told not to report to their new place of duty whilst the incumbent minister and the incumbent secretary finish off various matters. It stinks. I have it on record. But I don't think I'm going to say it just yet. We'll find out a little bit more. We'll get our crews to phone them up and record them.
So then where is law and order? Where is discipline? And
where can they be? There can't be. I spoke to one ministry secretary and he said, no, I have to finish some work here, and so I'll be joining latest by the 15th of July. But if one looks at the Gazette notification, there is no date into the future. When they say it's changed, you're changed from today. It's as simple as that.
There are ministers.
If our group director says to you that you're going to do some other program, it doesn't mean he means now. Unless he tells you, look, it's next month.
This is the state of affairs and what's happening in the government sector.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And then another thing, if you looked at carefully at the Gazette notification, you'll find a golden piece of corruption, a golden nugget of corruption, and that is that at the central bank, the non-banking supervision division has now been moved from the central bank to the Treasury, to the Ministry of Finance. Now, normally, Bandla, these are very important matters. For leasing companies, microfinancing people, they all come under the supervision of the non-banking supervision unit. You need professionals there to understand what these people get up to and what they can get up to. You can't be having political lackeys running that division, and that is what is going to happen.
But this is a mess. Our country is in a mess, but we have no alternative. This is what the people's power is more important.
But the Prime Minister, right back in January 2015, he split the finance ministry into 3. He even kept the Treasury with him, the central bank. Public enterprises given away to Kabir Hashim. And what on earth was Ravi Karunayaka left with? It's a bit like the FCID. At the beginning, they had everything. Now, the files pertaining to the stock exchange transactions are being sent to the SEC. The SEC has only got a few people. They can hardly cope with the 12 files they had. And Mr. Tilak Karunaraka came here on our program, Bandula, and he said 3 months. Again he came, he said another 3 months, and then we've not heard from him. He sent his deputy or somebody else. Vajra came here. But he couldn't answer this question. So, you see, even the SEC, those files are being sent away. Then the national procurement files are being sent to the National Procurement Commission. So what does the FCID mean now? Does it mean that the Prime Minister and Sagal Ratnayaka, the Minister, friend of the Prime Minister as well, are they getting uncomfortable with what the FCID are finding out?
Maybe because this is all a club for us, as we have discussed, with the then and now. This is all a club. They will fight for their rights, whether be it the opposition, the joint opposition, or the government. They are friends. They are good buddies. This is what they do. They protect themselves.
Did you watch when the Prime Minister came back from the United States? First of all, he went on about the medical. And then he waxes eloquent about the medical facilities available in the US and so on. And he wants to devise a system that all the others also can go there. Does he mean all the others? Does he mean A, members of his flowery club, B, just the cabinet of ministers or the parliament and the parliamentarians? So what about the people? Don't people have feelings?
We don't need a Ministry of Health. Our Minister of Health goes overseas for treatment.
Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore. So what do you expect? What happens to the people? They have to tighten belts, and it's very difficult. It's better for people to die than going to hospitals. We know that.
Excepting, of course, that the ICU unit at the General Hospital, the National Hospital in Colombo, I have personal knowledge of that because that's where I ended up in 2013. Brilliant service. I'm forever and a day grateful.
But for us, what's the message these politicians are giving to the people? Don't go to these hospitals, have money or earn money, go abroad. So what?
Or dip into the President's fund.
People are laughing. Other leaders in other countries, they don't do that.
But you know, when you look at these appointments, I met the Minister of International Trade yesterday, kind of bumped into him, and I said, why aren't you coming on our program?
Who is the Minister of International Trade?
Mr. Malik Samaravikrama. You know,
so you had a chance meeting with him?
A chance meeting at the
I thought he was avoiding you all this.
Well, he is, but he had no choice because I got out of the car and he was getting out of the World Trade Center, and there he was. So I said to him, you know, Face the Nation, Patigada, Newsline, why aren't you coming? Oh, he said it's better for us to carry on doing our job rather than giving interviews. Well, that's one hell of a joke, isn't
then
it?
Then he should not go to Parliament.
Openness is the cornerstone of
but
democracy.
He shouldn't go to Parliament either. Then
but we have the same problem, by the way. Jon Snow was refused an interview by Theresa May, the only British Prime Minister to have refused Mr. Snow an interview. Now he's a bit upset, but we are upset every day because none of these fellows want to be held accountable. They don't want to answer your questions.
But it's important the masses will know, our viewers will understand, so they can decide for themselves.
But are they constantly aware, Bandla, or are they here just for the good times, just to get a lick of the piece of cake and then get on and boost their bank balances?
No, of course they are there for that, so this is what we have to keep the pressure on. The media can play, we are the government, we are the opposition. We are the ones who stand by the people.
The Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the issuance of bonds, the CEO of that company managed to do something quite unethical and sit in whilst the other chap was giving evidence. He was describing under oath a conversation that he had on the day that this auction was happening. Now, you would imagine, with the amount of trouble these people are into and the amount of questions that they have to answer, and you know, the amount of money and time that the government is expending on getting to the bottom of this, you would imagine that they would be squeaky clean, at least now. And to do something unethical like that,
they are really not, and they would have resigned. In another country, they would have resigned by now. So they carry on shamelessly.
They carry on shamelessly. This is wonderful. We've got a viewer, I don't really know the name, but anyway, we are run by a circus of clowns, and the principal clown is within the PM's club. What's the other clowns in the opposition doing?
They do nothing. I mean, there are two opposition. They do nothing. So we got no alternative. So this is what we got to build, a new leadership for us. We got to have proper good professionals coming forward.
Okay, there's another one. It says you talk about Johnny for petty issues, but what about Yanasara? Where no media talks about him? What about MR? You feel to be haunted about that?
No,
well, not really.
No, they also. My point is, okay, they were punished. They were voted out.
Yes.
So we have this habit of going back 50 years ago. It's over now. You do it. This is what we talk of Nanasara. We talk of all these people.
Yeah.
But what is wrong is wrong. Just because I saw one newspaper said, okay, now John Amartunga did that, but ministers did that. Yes, the previous governments also did that.
Yeah.
So you came to power saying we are not going to do that.
Yeah.
Then don't do that.
Yeah.
Now JRJ said Just Society or Dharmishta Samaja, then you had Mahinda Rajapaksa saying Alutarak, New Sri Lanka, now Yahapalne. What has happened? So people have to be empowered. That is what we are trying to do.
That's indeed, that is what we're trying to do. We've spoken about the bonds. Now about these appointments. It's absolutely awful. It's been disgraced the way it's being done. This is not their personal property. We can understand the shareholders of a company sitting down and deciding what they want, because it's their company. But this is not their government, this is not their assets.
People's money, one of our viewers said,
yes,
to say people's money, not the money of the government.
Quite.
People's money.
And then we had, this is one, we can go on for an hour at least, the return of the minister who resigned after he was sort of exposed as having a conflict of interest, having sort of represented the corrupt. Now he's back and he's got an important portfolio.
For us, people who appoint, people who accept it, they don't have shame. People who feel ashamed are the ordinary masses because they are honorable. That's the difference here. They don't feel that. They don't care. They abuse property. They misuse. They use people's money and get luxury cars when we are under threat, when floods. That day they go and get this approved. Very insensitive. What sort of country are we living in?
It's insensitive because Bandula, I am telling you that they all, most of them anyway, suffer from Asperger's syndrome. I urge you, if you don't know the meaning, it's very easily, Google the thing, Asperger's syndrome. It is an inability to understand or feel any empathy for the next
But
man.
for us it's true, but you and I may not live to see this change, but I think at least for the future generation, this we have to change. People have to be like other countries. That's what others forever will be a developing country.
Shamindra Ferdinando, the news editor of the Island newspaper, sent in this message. He's feeling a bit unwell, so he hasn't been able to come and tell us himself. But what he says, what about over 50% political appointees heading our diplomatic missions? Now you should know a bit about that.
Yeah, because it's like this. Okay, when this government came, they said we will change it, but it has become worse. I mean, I know this information through my colleagues in the ministry. It's become worse.
Right.
So then you change, you make a difference, you make a change, people will support it. So this is what has happened. So you have to have both. I must say, wherever the US you take, you have lots of political appointees. That you must have a mix of it, but then you can't say, okay, we are giving this and we are doing. Then don't do that. Then don't say it. But anyway, now they have new jobs, selling lotteries.
Well, they do. And our control rooms found the Twitter address for
His Holiness the Pope.
His Holiness the Pope. It will come up on your screens shortly. Get on there, complain, ask them, tell him, tell His Holiness to help us. Now then.
But don't you agree for us that these ministers who are corrupt, who is wronged, how come this diplomatic community, they should not go and see them? The religious leaders should not give them an audience.
That's right.
But by giving an audience to them, they send a wrong message to the people.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes, you said, we are not meeting you till you apologize to the people. They don't do that.
No, Bandula, talk about these diplomatic missions and our diplomats and, political appointees and so on. Now then, a few days ago, we had live by telephone. There you go. His Holiness, the Pope's Twitter handle is out there. You can make a note of it and get cracking. But in the meantime, back to the telephone call. We had a live phone call with Ambassador ASP Lienegay, the state representing our nation in the state of Qatar. Now he told us very clearly that there was nothing to worry about. There's plenty of food and everything. There's no problem. So we gave him invaluable airtime. But then now we find I found a report yesterday that they were plane loads of stuff, food and so on, arriving in Qatar. So what's going on? Apparently somebody said the supermarkets are empty. Perhaps that's because people are panicking. But I was wondering to myself, I wonder whether Ambassador Lienegay was just holed up in his residence, or did he actually go out there and have a look to see what was happening firsthand?
We should check that with the foreign minister.
Maybe we ought to check it, don't we?
Maybe he doesn't know the ground situation, but we can keep checking on that.
Now then, but how accountable are these people in the foreign ministry?
No,
Is it just one big party?
No, it's not that. You know, like in any profession, any place, there are people who work hard, people who don't, people who go for a holiday to send their children, give them education. There are a lot of people. There is a mix of, like anywhere. Like we have good politicians, bad politicians. It's the same thing. But they have a responsibility because they are the face of the country. So they have a bigger responsibility. But in fairness to most of these foreign like diplomats, I must say, Sri Lanka could treat them better because the facilities offered to them are not the best. Even Bangladesh looks after them better. So you cannot expect them to represent Sri Lanka with those bare minimum facilities. It's very difficult. Because this also what I am saying is, now take the politicians. They go and then they blame them. Most of these politicians go for a good time. They don't work, they just they do shopping, they do a good time. They expect everything for them to pay. I mean, we have discussed this, to pay their birthday cakes, pay for all that. So this thing can be changed.
Now, Andre Yapa, the minister, I was about to say the disasters minister in charge of the disasters, he took 5 days to come back from Cancun. He didn't even, you know, I would have thought that he seized the opportunity, spoke to the organizers and said, look, chaps, we've got a calamity on our hands in our country. Give me the opportunity to speak to address the forum now. And he could have made an impassioned plea for help. And they would have helped.
Another country, a leader from another country would have done that.
Yeah.
But this is what we say, they just don't care.
So really, the people are yearning for leadership, aren't they? And we don't have professionals running our... I mean, did you notice just 2 or 3 days ago in the press, 146 million United States dollars because of a cancelled order at Sri Lankan Airlines.
And I think Sunday Times, right? Was it
That's
same
right.
thing? And we have exposed so much of corruption, but nothing is happening. Even take the bond issue.
Yeah.
We have commissions.
Yeah.
What happens? Will they be punished?
And it's all absolutely of no use, because if only there was a commitment right at the beginning to say, no, 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 this stinks a mile. You're not going to be given... What are you doing? The Bank of Ceylon, without so much as a how do you do, lends this firm, makes a proxy bid on their behalf. Why? Their own bid was for a fraction of that amount, Bandula. You know, so if they had jumped up and done what the president wanted and had a presidential inquiry, then the matter wouldn't have gone so far, and the losses would have been reduced.
This will be interesting. A viewer has sent, the Bank of Ceylon has refused to lend money to Satosa. Just got a message. Right? They have, and then private sector does not give goods anymore. The institution is broke now. A viewer has sent this. Very interesting.
And Mr. Karunaka was in charge of that in another administration.
Yeah, but now, right now, this is the present situation of Laksatosa.
Viewer is also reminding us that Andre Yapa's speech at Cancun was probably prepared before the event, and therefore, and also obviously before the calamity, and clearly he was not capable of changing it.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. This is the whole thing. So how can he get ready, like, to manage that ministry if he cannot manage himself?
But it's terrible.
Yeah.
We had our guest yesterday, came on your program as well, on Pathikada as well, around the Guinea.
And we have had this situation for us, I think, some time ago. I don't know whether it was the Minister of Tourism, one Minister Adhikari. He had, like, accidentally he read the same speech twice, like at an international forum.
Right.
Because he had the copy also. He read it twice. A Minister of Tourism in Sri Lanka. This is what happens here.
Well, it's completely laughable, but the problem is that it is the people who continue to suffer. And there's no good really blaming the people, because, you know, people say, well, you know, the people deserve it. Well, they're not really.
But we have to find answers. This has to change. That's why we had this campaign, think again and again. So
Indeed.
this is what we have got to change.
The March the 12th of Obviously, this Satosa problem. Perhaps somebody, maybe the operative word here, maybe the minister has also got his hand in the till. There's something happening if Satosa is going out of running out of money.
Yeah, this is interesting. You have said we should check on this.
We ought to check on that.
But for us, my question to you is, okay, we are bringing this up, we are putting on pressure, but we got to make this change, because these guys are going as if they are mad. They are very insensitive. So
well, they're sliding away, aren't they?
Another country, most of these guys would have resigned. People would have resigned. We won't.
I think what we ought to do, Bandula, is get a little bit more active and perhaps talk to our heads here. We need to, people who don't want to come on programs and who are trying to slide away, squirming away, you know, rather like a little reptile going here. I think we need to doorstep them. Have a cameraman and a reporter outside these places, whereas they go in and they come out. Film them, ask them one at a time, question after question.
So you're saying the media should be aggressive. Then what happens is they'll be like punched by people like John Amaratunga.
Well, you know, hopefully the entire media industry will stand as one. You know, casting aside intra-industry rivalry, right? They'll put that
I think that's the only way.
We need to get a bit more aggressive. We need to send our cameras there and stand out there. And when these guys turn up, on the occasion that we'll know if they're abroad. So on the few days that they're in this country, they need to stand out there, and even if it's one question at a time, that's what we ought to do. Because these fellows are not there actively. They don't want to come on these programs because they don't want to get tackled. You know, they don't want to get tackled. They don't want to...
But for us, what about the cabinet spokesmen? 3 of them.
Three. It's awful.
If you speak to the diplomatic community,
yeah,
they laugh. They laugh at us. They can't do that openly. They laugh at us all the time. I mean, I remember at that time Professor G.L. Pires used to lecture. I used to be seated then, you could see them laughing or dozing off.
Yeah.
So these are things which I've seen. So they laugh at us. But they will not tell it to your face,
yeah,
but they'll be diplomatic. So we have become the laughing stock.
Another viewer says, please don't forget that these people, the people whom he refers to as clowns in Parliament, that some of them are probably paid by foreign governments and sponsored their visits and so on. We have another person who, okay, I'm going to mention his name, Mr. Asela Idewela, who's chairman of the Land Reclamation Board. He sent a message in saying the media too should apply ethics. Well, we do. I'd like them to tell me when we haven't. If we're asking tough questions, that's too bad. Then don't, you know, it's that old saying, isn't it, Bandula? If you can't take the heat, you need to get out the kitchen.
But I also want to say Asela is somebody who came from the private sector.
Yeah.
But I'm sure his speed is 140 kilometers per hour. But do you think he can work freely the way he has worked in the private sector in the government? No.
I don't
think he's allowed to work or he's given that support. I don't think so.
That's right. That's right.
Because, you know, they will work differently. I'm sure they must be pulling his leg, because people who come from the private sector, they can work. They try to deliver. Yeah. But they are not allowed to.
But, you know, we asked Mr. Idewela about the dumping of garbage in Muturajwala. Now, that reporter asked the same question from John Amaratunga, and he got absolutely abused in choice language and threatened. And then he was asked, this reporter was told, I hope you're not going to use this, as in publish it or broadcast it, and then don't complain. But, you know, when I asked Mr. Idewela, he didn't sort of threaten me.
But also for us, if the media, if we keep quiet, what happens to the masses? They will be silenced. This is what I would expect even these public officials to come out and speak up. What is right is right. If you don't know, you should resign and go home. We can do that.
We can.
Yeah, people can go home. Anyway, people will live.
They will.
Yeah, so you should, people should do that.
What about professionalism in running government institutions or institutions that are owned by the people, like Sri Lankan Airlines? I'm sorry to keep going on about Sri Lankan Airlines, but it is an absolute money drainer.
And we find it very difficult, not you and I, to say sorry or to say thank you. We don't do that. So say sorry. If you have made a mistake, say sorry, or I will correct myself.
There are some basic things, isn't there? It's a bit like saying good morning. And nothing gets up my goat more than people who can't, who just grunt to reply.
And like it or not, Colombo is just still full of garbage. You just have to walk around.
Absolutely. And that tells the whole story of non-delivery. 2.5 years nearly in power, and all they can do is blame the other side. No plans, nothing. I mean, why are these ministers continuing? They should all resign and go back to their villages or back to their professions.
No, villages, sorry, they will not accept them.
That's why they stick hanging on to dear life here.
Yeah, in Colombo. Whether you are from north, east, or south, they are all in Colombo.
Indeed, it's sad, but there is hope, isn't there?
I am not sure whether we have hope. I am being very negative, but I don't know.
Well, I think we do, because at least the private sector is...
Yeah, that's different, but I am saying the masses take government, they take the villages. We are giving them, but where the government take the flood situation, it's still not happening because the incident, because of the, like Iran, they said the cricket matches come, they have forgotten that. You cannot
now they'll all be silenced because unfortunately, it's very sadly, we lost against Pakistan. That's sad. I mean, the control room is all in a state of flux because they've all, they're feeling bad. But then we live for another day. And on that note, I think there is hope at the end of the tunnel, isn't there? At least they've got Patikana, Newsline, our network.
Because we give them a voice.
We give them a voice. So don't lose all hope. There is always hope at the end of the tunnel, isn't there? On that note, that's it. Thank you very much, Bandla, for joining me this morning, and we'll be on Talk of the Town in a few minutes, and that's it. That's the way it is from Newsline on Tuesday, the 13th of June 2017. Take care. God bless.